Everyone in our little group there, I listened to immediately.
I do too. And like with the addition of like Vidith.
Right.
Vidith had me on his channel today.
Yeah.
That was cool.
All right. Let me see how I sound on here.
Okay.
Everyone in our little group there, I listened to immediately.
I do too. And
Okay, I think I sound good. Okay, let me get the background music going. Here we go. All right, now we're rolling. Again, I just yeah, I'm a huge fan of yours. What before we get into any good stories, what are you working on?
currently I am working on an audiobook very slowly.
Oh,
And then just
that's awesome.
yep.
How's
And
that been?
that's been fun.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it. Just it takes up a great deal of time, which gets a little hard with a full-time job.
Right, I agree. It'd be nice to finally just go full time with the narrating. I think I'd get. I mean, obviously I'd get so much more done, but I feel like I'd have better stories too. I feel like.
Oh, absolutely. When you just have more free time. Like I've been waking up at 5 in the morning to get stuff done.
Right, that's crazy. Well, I mean, it shows. I mean, it shows though. Believe it or not, like I watch your stuff and I'm truly in awe. Just because I feel like your material's very not only just well done, but I feel like you provide like a very intellectual way to horror, like pathway to horror. Like when I listen to your stuff, in comparison to mine, I'm like, man, mine's pretty simple, but yours is like got like really good psychological horror to it. Like I feel like it adds a different level of horror to me.
It's been quite a bit of time going and reading through stories on No Sleep, and I believe it's the Library of Shadows is a really good place to get stories. Especially, I'm really into No Sleep and the darker horror. So I like to read things that I genuinely enjoy. I think
Mm-hmm.
that makes a big difference, makes it a lot more fun for me.
Yeah, absolutely. That's way cool. I'm just what so you said you're working on the audio book. What do you think are your favorite kinds of stories to cover?
I really like. I kind of like awful at answering questions about myself. Sorry.
That's
I
okay.
really enjoy the stories where someone feels like they're somewhere, something's going on, and then all of a sudden, it's just that at the end, that big twist, and it's like that surprise at the end, that kind of story.
Yeah.
And the dark, a lot of the story, I really enjoy stories. The darker, the better.
Yeah.
Just kind of shocking stories.
Mm-hmm.
And I also just, as far as listening to, have been a fan of narrations for 4 or 5 years now.
Okay.
So as far as listening to stories, I really enjoy cryptids.
Right. I think everyone loves those. Those are so awesome.
Oh yeah, and I'll listen to the Let's Not Meet and stuff, but I was never able to. I could never feel like I got the tone down right for those, so I never
Yeah.
really tried my hand at narrating them.
Right. I feel like Let's Not Meet stories. I was really crazy about those, and then I kind of just felt like after a while I was just like, I feel like this is just like creepy people in real life. Like just coming across creepy people. Like I feel like I've experienced those at work all the time. You know,
Oh yeah,
it's like
I
let's not
definitely
meet.
agree.
Like my manager said something really weird to me today. Like let's not meet again. You know, it's like oh jeez.
Well, until tomorrow when I go back
Yeah,
to work.
until I clock in again. Right. Well, that's cool. What do you I think I follow you on basically every social media uh, medium there's out there, and I think you do a lot of camping. Is that right?
I used to do a lot of camping. I'll go out and my boyfriend doesn't like the actual camping.
Right.
So we'll go out in our camper and go down in the Badlands and do that a couple times a year.
Okay.
But in
Yeah.
my old age, just don't go out real camping anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I think everyone's a fan of camping in theory, but when it comes to like actually going out and camping, it's like, oh jeez, it's cold, it's wet, the ground's hard. It's not as enjoyable.
Oh, definitely not. I used to be. I camped in January for my 19th birthday
Oh wow,
in Idaho.
nice. Shout out to Idaho.
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, I go camping with my wife and her family, and it's fun. I don't get to tell as many ghost stories or skinwalker stories with that group of people, just because it's some of the siblings have kids, and they're not exactly ready for that kind of stuff yet. But that to me is like being out in the woods around a good campfire, especially with autumn just around the corner. That's like, ooh, like this is the time of year I feel like we really shine, especially with our little craft here.
Absolutely. The best time of year, spooky season.
Right. I love breaking out my jacket in the morning and going to work. Oh my gosh, I freaking love it. It's really nice.
No more 90-degree weather.
Yeah, get rid of that. Well, let me see here. So you're telling me about some of your stories. All right, so it was funny. So I had Mosquito on here, and I didn't realize it at the time, but when I had him on earlier this week, he actually doesn't believe in ghosts, which makes ghost stories a little bit difficult. But what's your stance what's your stance with ghosts?
I absolutely believe in ghosts.
All right.
I feel like I've seen enough that it's just got to be real at this point.
Right. I feel like, with my experience, just with people, I feel like everyone I've met, or just about everyone I've met, has either experienced something or knows someone that's experienced something. Do you agree with that, or?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. I think that. I mean, I think there's just a lot of. It's interesting because, like, scientifically, it's so hard to prove. But I mean, there's just so much out there, and there's so much, quote unquote evidence of photographs and EVPs and things like that. But let me ask you, what experiences have you experienced that has led you to believe in ghosts?
Well, let me think. Starting, I like to do things in chronological order. So childhood, I used to see a little boy in my house I grew up in.
Oh my
And
gosh.
there's only one family that lived in it before us, so I'm not quite sure where it came from. But my most vivid memory of it, one of them is I went into my parents' room. They got up at like 4 in the morning or something ridiculous.
Oh wow.
I went in to get something off my dad's dresser, and I turned around, and at first I thought it was I have an older brother. I thought it was my brother standing behind me, until all of a sudden nothing was there. And then at Christmas time, I'd also get up really early, so I like to drive and get the newspaper with my dad. So I sit there at the Christmas tree. I remember looking up on the landing of our stairs, the first landing, and I'd see it's him standing there for a couple seconds, and that happened pretty frequently. That
Wow.
was the first one that comes to mind.
Well, that's pretty terrifying. What were you able to like see any features of this boy? Was he like wearing old clothes, or? I mean, it sounds like you almost confused him for your brother.
He did kind of look like my brother, although younger, about my height. I was probably 5 or 6 years old. And
Oh my
just,
gosh.
kind of like an average short haircut for the 90s. It was pretty interesting. Back then I wasn't scared. Now I would be.
Yeah.
But watched the Poltergeist too many times. But back then I wasn't scared. It was just like, oh, that's weird. But
That
I
is.
do remember. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
Sometime not too long after that, which probably started my lifelong love of horror, my mother let me watch Poltergeist. And I made her check and make sure there wasn't an Indian burial ground on our property.
Of course.
Of course, that's the first thing you do when you're 7.
Right.
So that was the first time. Then I can't remember what all I told you about in that message the other day. I know that, yes, next one that really comes to mind, I was 17. This is the really scary one.
Ooh.
I had a couple friends. I think there was probably 4 or 5 of us. It was summer. I was 17. She was kind of a hippie lady, and we just went camping every single day. Every day. It's this beautiful spot in northern Idaho called Green Bay. We'd go out there and just camp every night. Go into town during the day, get Taco Bell dollar menu, and go back out. But one night, we were out there, and she'd previously told me a little backstory. And if I'm talking too much, you can tell me to stop.
Oh, you're perfect.
She told me when she was a little girl, she would see something she called Snake Man. And she would wake up, she'd see it at night, and then she'd wake up in the morning, and it would be drawn on her door, far higher than she could reach at like 4 or 5 years old. And then, so going back to the present, when I was 17, we're all out camping and just hanging out. We weren't drinking or doing anything, just hanging out around the fire. Then all of a sudden, it sounds like Sky is crying. So I asked my friend, like, hey, what's going on? Everyone kind of goes back over where the fire was, and she's just freaking out, hysterical, crying, saying it's Snake Man, it's Snake Man. It was a really weird incident. And then, so the guys get the fire going again, but we ran out of firewood. So they ran down to get more driftwood to keep the fire going. And we're sitting there, me and this other girl, trying to keep her calm and everything. And they left with a roaring fire going. And they were probably 100 yards off. Were you going to say something?
Oh, no.
Oh, sorry. So they left with a really good fire going. Went down the little hill, and then all of a sudden the fire just whoosh, no more fire.
What?
We were all good kids back then, so it was complete clarity. And being 17 is a scary experience by itself.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So the fire went out. We were the terror was increased, and we started screaming for the guys, because for some reason, all 3 guys we were hanging out with went down to the beach to get driftwood and left the 3 girls up there. So we're screaming for them, and they could not hear us. They're only probably 50 yards off, and they didn't hear us screaming for them. So they finally get back up. The guy she goes from hysterical crying to just laughing, and she tries to run off into the forest. This is that maybe exorcism story I told you about, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
But then we get her to come back, and someone with us is, I think they were Wiccan or pagan, and so they told me, oh, I don't want you to be a part of this, Emily. You just keep the fire going. That's your job. Whatever. So I just gathered sticks and kept the fire going, and they performed a Wiccan exorcism on her in the middle of the forest.
Oh my gosh.
And eventually she stopped, freaking out and just went back to sleep.
Huh.
Because that part was kind of blurry, but it was pretty crazy. I was terrified. I don't know how I went back to sleep. But you could if you believe in ghosts and stuff, you could like feel the energy around like the circle of light. It just felt like something was there trying to like, I don't know, it sounds lame, like get back in kind of thing.
Hmm.
It was weird. And then for 3 months after that, I lived way out in the mountains. I'd go walk my dog every day, so it's down a dirt road and there's just thick trees on either side. Every single day, it would feel like something was in the forest watching me, and then like I can't catch a glimpse. Sorry, I can't talk. A glimpse of something off in the distance, but it would be gone when I actually turned and looked. It was
Hmm.
pretty crazy. That's pretty much that story.
Do you
I
think?
start rambling.
Do you think
Sorry.
that those two events were connected? Do you think something maybe followed you after that?
I think so.
Huh.
It was definitely a scary experience. It took a long time to feel, I don't know, normal after that.
Right.
That one pretty much did it for me as far as believing in ghosts or something.
Well, from what your friend described, there being a snake man, that sounds terrifying for one. But
Oh,
secondly,
absolutely.
that sounds like a demon. Like that doesn't sound like a human ghost. Like
Oh, no.
that's something darker. To me at least, I don't know what you think about that.
Oh, no, I absolutely agree.
That's freaky. Wow. So, has anything happened since? Any other encounters with the paranormal?
Yes. When I was 18, I
Oh
worked
my
in a
gosh.
haunted hotel.
Ooh.
And there's like this swing door that you just push and it went back and forth. If you go behind the front counter, I did night audit, so only there at night. It would move by itself. Someone had died in the hot tub room. I wouldn't go near the hot tub room. It felt too bad.
Mm.
So that was pretty creepy. I lived in southern Idaho for 6 months in a house where, like, if I was standing in the kitchen, there was a hallway back to the bedroom behind where I'd be standing at the sink. I could feel you could feel it on the linoleum, like someone rushing up behind you.
Oh my gosh.
TV would turn itself on in the middle of the night. My dog would bark at the corners of rooms. The crawl space the entrance to the crawl space in the bathroom closet felt really creepy. So did the empty bedroom at the end of the hall. I would see a misty figure of an old man at the end of the bed. And then later I found out their grandfather died in that room.
Oh my gosh. That's terrifying.
And then we had a spider problem, and they didn't want me to do anything in the house. And I didn't know anything about doing something about it, but, oh, my grandfather's here, I don't want you to do anything. And so said this place is a safe haven for lost spirits. She's a medium or something. Like, oh. But sage gets rid of spiders, so I tricked them into letting me go around the house with sage, and then nothing happened again.
Huh. That's freaky.
That was a haunted house.
Wow. That's really freaky. It definitely adds excuse me, it definitely adds a layer when I feel like when people are mediums. I feel like that's always interesting. I came across a child once. I was in Boise, actually, and a child came up to me at random, which was really weird. And I noticed about this child that his eyes were like silver. Like it freaked me out. Like his like irises were silver. Like they weren't blue. Like they were silver. And I remember looking at him and I was like, that is really strange. And then he said something that probably I still think about this to this day. He said something to me along the lines of like he didn't know me or anything. It was just like a random, like I was in like a supermarket or something. He's like, he comes up to me. He's like, excuse me, mister, I just want to let you know that there's a little girl spirit following you. And then just walks away.
Oh.
I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, you can't do that to me right now. Like, I'm just here to buy some Oreos, and you're throwing that kind of stuff at me. Like, a little girl following me, like a little ghost girl. That's, anyways, like that freaked me out. Not necessarily just because like the guy told me that, but like his eyes were like silver. I'm like, this dude probably could see something that I couldn't see, and that freaked me out. And then I started thinking about it, and I started thinking about like The Grudge, how that ghost girl was following, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And I was like, oh my gosh. So that experience happened, and that was really weird. Freaked me out. But that's my experience with a medium. What are your thoughts on the concept of hauntings? Do you think that places can be haunted? Do you think that people can be haunted? What's your mindset with that?
I definitely think that places can be haunted. And as far as people, are you referring to something that follows them or like possession?
Both, even.
Both. I'm pretty sure from past experiences that possession can happen. And I'm pretty sure, I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
So, no, possessions, and then what about, like, the following? Do you think ghosts can follow you, latch onto you?
Yes.
That's freaky.
It is really freaky.
Now, this is where things kind of go towards the more paranormal side, and this is where I feel like a lot of people lose interest, but do you think that, entities or spirits or whatever, do you think they pick up on, like, your energy, and they can kind of tell, if you're a negative person or, you're susceptible to those things? Do you think that they latch onto that?
Oh, absolutely.
Because I've heard it where it's like, it's almost like even with animals, like animals can pick up your emotions, and if you're like a good person or whatever, and, I know that you can attract different things. So I always kind of compare it to that, and whenever I start to think about things being haunted, I just do my best to brighten my mood, to brighten my attitude, and typically whatever's going on goes away.
Yeah, I definitely think that it helps a lot to... So when I used to experience a lot of things, I was always not in a good place or something like that. When I changed my outlook a lot, I stopped experiencing things nearly as much.
Right.
I feel like it helps.
Right. Let me see. What are some other interesting topics? What are your thoughts on like cryptid creatures? Do you believe in Bigfoot?
I grew up with a mother who believed in Bigfoot, but I don't think so.
You don't think so? I kind of lean towards that as well, because mainly it's like, I feel like we would have found one by now, kind of thing, at least a carcass or something. There's always that argument, oh, these are super intelligent creatures or whatever, but, it's definitely something I wanted to believe in growing up, but, the older I get, I feel like cryptid zoology would have a pretty firm grasp on all the animals and things like that, so... I don't know. I think that, I think that that's just kind of something to make things fun outside. I don't know if that's an actual thing anymore.
Yeah, if we hadn't, explored so much of the world, maybe, and there's still some parts that have yet to be seen somewhere, but I just don't think that there's enough of it that hasn't been explored to find something like Bigfoot.
Right. Right. What do you think, and I often hear this a lot, what do you think about there being a connection with Bigfoot and aliens? Do you think that maybe they're a hybrid? Do you think that Bigfoot's like a hybrid alien/human kind of thing, and that's why we can't find him?
It's a It's a possibility.
I mean, I know it sounds crazy because I know there are a lot of people that believe in aliens, including myself. And they supposedly have this technology that we can't see them or track them or whatever, which makes sense if they can travel the galaxies or whatever. But if they were to impart that onto a Bigfoot-like creature, I feel like then you maybe have grounds to make. I mean, that's the kind of what I'm thinking in terms of plausibility.
I've never thought of Bigfoot from the maybe they're an alien hybrid perspective, and I like that. That makes sense. So generally, you think the Greys when you think of aliens.
Right.
I also believe in them. The universe is far too expansive for there to not be something else.
Right.
But it's very interesting. Very interesting to think about.
Well, here, chew on this for a second. So I talked to a guy. I work in a very customer-based service industry, and I was taking a gentleman home from an event or something, and he was one of those people. He quote unquote worked for the government, the secret sector, and all that jazz. And he was going off on these secret government projects and all these things. And he was telling me that there was a base in one of the national parks that's super well hidden. And even if you do find it, you can't get in. It's armed guards through the wazoo. But anyways, the base was underground, 7 or 8 stories underground or whatever. And it was a government facility testing UFOs and working with aliens. And he said that there were different levels for different things, but the most bottom level was an exclusive alien level. And he was telling me how they'd have to do briefings or whatever with these aliens. And obviously, the person telling me this, I don't know how credible he was, but he was telling me how the aliens were wanting to make hybrids to take back to their planet and to harvest or whatever. And he was saying, like, Bigfoot was one of them. It was like one of the kind of hybrids, and they were testing it out. And I always looked at Bigfoot differently after that.
That's very interesting.
I feel like if someone is a very skilled author, I mean, even someone like yourself, I feel like there's a good creepypasta in there. If you're able to work the details right.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I've had similar things where I've had customers tell me things kind of along those lines that are just pretty crazy, but not alien or supernatural related. But when I worked at Home Depot once upon a time, and I had a customer, and he wasn't like the homeless, crazy looking guy. He was probably in his 40s, well put together, normal looking guy. And for some reason, he decided to tell me that his father had worked for a very special part of the government, and time travel is real.
Really?
Yep. Which got me onto several years of studying quantum mechanics and quantum theory. But that's another story.
Interesting.
And he said things along the lines of great people from history are here among us, but as their younger selves, which to believe what he said, you'd have to not believe in like the butterfly effect and quite a few different factors, because if you take them out of history as their younger selves, then they never did the great stuff they did.
Right.
So there were holes on what he said, but I just found it to be interesting. Some stranger cornered me in conversation for 20 minutes about time travel.
That's interesting. Because there's two ways you could look at that. The first and most obvious, I feel like, would be like, all right, this guy's off his rocker, just wanting to kill some time at a Home Depot. But the second option, which I find way more fascinating, is this is true, and he wanted to give you this information, and what do you do with that if that is true? Like, that changes so much, I feel like, about everything, you know?
Oh, absolutely.
You know?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I was very much taken by the ideas of what he said. And like I said, I spent quite a while. I still have a ton of books on it, just studying the theories around time travel, the physics of it, all of that. Just, there's a lot of interesting stuff out there about it. Very, very interesting to think about, especially when you start to get into the mechanics and all that. But I can go on for hours about time travel theories.
I think that's really interesting. And let me ask you this. Do you think that, quote unquote, if time travel... Now, I do think that there is a form of time travel where you can go forward. I definitely think that's a thing. But I don't think you can necessarily go backwards. Because, you know, you can see where people will go in a spaceship or whatever, you know, at a certain speed. You know, the whole theory of relativity. If you go at a certain speed, that you will not age as quickly as the people on Earth. And so, you know, astronauts or whatever, they'll be gone for, you know, whatever, and come back, and they won't nearly as aged as much as people on Earth. I think that's really fascinating. And then you have, like, the whole concept of, like, I don't know, like different, like, cryogenics and things like that. But that's interesting to think of. Do you think time travel goes both forward and backwards, if that were to be real?
Forwards makes a lot more sense, but with backwards, I feel like there's too many things, and this is, you know, butterfly effect again. I don't feel like someone could go back and not mess something up astronomically.
Right.
But we really don't know, like, the butterfly effect makes sense, but is it really real, even if it makes sense?
Right. Yeah, I think that's... Let me ask you this. Since we're kind of on, like, government conspiracies, what are your thoughts? I talked a little bit on cryptids. Cryptids, like, by far my favorite subject. I love cryptids. I love Dogman. Love Bigfoot, the Yeti, skinwalkers even. Do you think that skinwalkers may be fabricated from a government program, or do you think that they're more paranormal based? Well, first of all, actually, even before that, do you even believe in skinwalkers?
It is... I'm actually ashamed of myself, but I've never looked up if that is actually Navajo legend.
Mm-hmm.
Which I feel like I should have done that at some point in my life.
I think skinwalkers are Navajo.
That's what they... I think it's highly possible they could have been, you know, some kind of genetically manufactured thing from the government. They're excellent, you know, in the stories, excellent killing machines, and
Right.
you'd never see them till it's too late.
Because we do know that the government has implemented different predators into ecosystems to balance out the ecosystems. We know that they've done that with different like different lakes and stuff. Like they'll put like certain fish, but also I know that they put wolves up in like different areas to balance out the ecosystems. Because I think, you know, some kind of animal was making too many dams, or, you know, was destroying too many things, so they put these wolves out there. But it wouldn't be that crazy to think that they were making a hybrid superior alpha wolf thing that was able to be bipedal, or you know, like a mega creature, and, you know, it got out and mated with an actual wolf, and, you know, things just went from there.
Oh, definitely. And with the, you know, you've seen even just this past week what they've done with cloning. They can clone that horse. They can genetically modify things and actually make something if they can clone stuff. I feel
Right.
like having that technology makes the other technology all that more possible.
Right.
If that makes sense.
I think it's scary about how much we actually know. And this is kind of interesting, but recently they came out with like, oh, we use this plane, like it's the SR-71 Blackbird, which they come out saying, oh yeah, that wasn't that long ago, but I mean it was a good bit of time ago, but I mean they were using that plane in like Vietnam, like that kind of stuff blows my mind, like that's like 40, 50 years ago, and we're just now knowing about it 10 years ago. It's like, what kind of stuff, I watched a documentary on Bob Lazar. He was a guy that worked at Area 51, and he's telling me about, they've got stuff, they had stuff in the 50s and 60s that even to this day is considered advanced technology. So, imagine, just look at the internet, for instance. We've only had it for, maybe 30 years? It was big in the 90s. And you see how far we've come. We've come from dial-up internet to now it's like, different social media platforms. You can talk to people across the world, in an instant. It's not even just talk to them, but, screen talk to them. Like, see their face and interact with them and, live stream and video chat and all that stuff. And that's just in a matter of, 30 years or so. Can you imagine, 50 or 60 years of advanced alien technology and the kind of stuff that they'd have? I mean, it's kind of freaky if you think about it.
It really is. And they wouldn't let the general public know because, I know according to whatever things, back in the 50s when there's a lot of alien activity, supposedly, they were worried about mass hysteria, things like that. So they're not going to just come out and, hey guys, guess what we have? And then also the secretivity of it, they want to keep it secret so they can create, everything ends up being used. Like we were talking about with the skinwalkers, for war, things like that. And if you don't keep it a secret, then the enemies will know.
Right.
That was their intended use for it. So I think that they probably have a ton of stuff just hidden away that we'll probably never know about.
Right.
And I always think about that when I question the possibility of something existing or being real, especially when the government's involved, because they're not gonna tell us. It's very, very possible for it to exist, and
right.
we'll just never know. I went off on a tangent. Kind of.
Yeah, it's and I don't know if you follow the news too much, but they've came out, I think it was either this year or last year, but they recently come out saying that they actually confirm and believe in UFOs.
Yes, I saw that.
That to me is interesting because if you look at the past news stories, like there's just so much cover up, and then all of a sudden it's like, no, that's kind of a thing, and it's kind of scary to think about. And then also think about those stories. Believe it or not, I actually have an alien story where I had a very crazy dream. I had a dream, and it was so weird. And it could have just been a dream, but on another note, it was so weird. But I had a dream that it was third person, which I've never dreamt like that before. And I was dreaming in third person, watching myself sleep. And that was such a strange experience. And then I look out the window, and it's as if someone turned on like these orange floodlights, and this light comes flooding in the room. And then the next thing I realize, I'm still in third person, and I see myself on this examination table. And I'm still in third person, and I'm in this room, and it's very metallic. Like, it's very shiny, and it's very silver, chromish looking room. Kind of it's like what you'd imagine a spaceship to look like on the inside. And in this dream, the Greys or whatever walk in, and they're small. Their proportions are weird. They're lanky. It's kind of weird to describe, but anyways, they walk up to me and they poke me, and in my dream, I go from third person to first person, and it's as if I wake up. And I actually wake up, and then they poke me again, and then I go back to third person. And then my body, like I see my body start to vibrate, and then then it goes black, which I guess that happens in dreams. And then I wake up again, but I'm still in third person, and then I'm back in my bed, and then the light from the outside that's flooding in goes away. And I don't know if that's an alien abduction story, but that's kind of what I experienced, and I don't know if it's an abduction or just a crazy dream, but either way, that was just a very wild experience.
That makes me think of a story I never really tell anyone, but I had pretty much the same dream when I was a kid. Except it was the same thing, third person, all of that. But for some reason, I was on like a, medical examiner's table, but we had this big back deck off the second story of my parents' bedroom. I was out on that, excuse me, and I didn't see whoever the doctor or whatever was, but it was very surreal, and it was reoccurring. I would have this multiple times, and I was quite young. I can't remember how young, but I was really young, and I probably had the dream 10 times.
Really?
Yep. It was pretty weird. It scared me really bad. I hated it. And I never had too many nightmares besides that one. But I'd wake up on the medical examiner's table, and I'd be scared. And sometimes I'd even wake myself up. But then when I went back to sleep, I was there again. It was weird.
That's bizarre. What do you think? Did you see anything? Like, did you see like any people or anything like that?
I don't think so. I remember whoever was there was behind me, because I was laying there and it was like behind my head.
That's scary.
To see who it was. Oh yeah, I was 5 years old. It's terrifying.
That makes you wonder what, that's so weird that you had that dream and then I had that dream. What do you think the reason is that, say that these weren't just dreams? What do you think that means in terms of, them abducting us? What do you think they're testing us? Do you think that because what I think is it's as if they're doing checkups. It seems like it's either checkups or they're wanting different. It's like they're surveying us almost.
I think it's something like that. Surveying makes a lot of sense, and while it seems like to us it's been happening for a very long time that they've been people reporting abductions, it very well could be. I'm sure their units of time are entirely different.
Mm-hmm.
So the surveying makes a lot of sense, and then even the checkups make sense. Just seeing what's going on here, what people are doing here, things like that.
What I think about is I think of what we go through, and like if you look at the course of history, if you believe in the Bible or whatever, and it's allegedly 8,000 years, but if you're more of a scientific approach, I guess humanity goes back way farther. If you look at either approach, we're still very, very, very young in the terms of like the age of the universe. And so what I think about is the kind of issues that we have now with like different political ideas and different foreign countries having different ideas and enemies and different economies and how things run. I think about that, but on a bigger scale, and on the scale of like through different planets and through different galaxies. And so what if there are galaxies at war with other galaxies or whatever. And I think about, why are they examining us? Why are they surveying us? What needs do they have from that they have that we can provide? And it just kind of freaks me out in a way, because we don't know what they're doing with that kind of information. And it's kind of like, like if you look at like social media and like all the information you can get from people online, it's like that, but a more way more personal aspect, because it's like our different bodily functions or whatever. I don't know if that's just such a weird tangent, but I think about that and I'm like, what does something so a species so advanced and so far ahead of us, what do they have need of our simplistic ways?
It's a very good question, and I wouldn't really even know where to begin with having some kind of answer for something like that, unless it's testing something like that.
What freaks me out... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no.
What freaks me out, I think about how we have so many different religions. I think about, what if they have different religions, but they're like, they actually found like their gods, like they actually have proof of them. And I think about, like, is there like a giant space entity we don't know about, and maybe they're like harvesting our DNA and or cloning it and providing like sacrifices? Like, I don't know. I like to get crazy with those kind of things. Just think about
absolutely.
that. I feel like
there's a lot of fun things to think about when you get into it.
Like, you look at the Aztecs and you look at a lot of religions. There's a lot of sacrifices involved. And I think about, if aliens were real, it wouldn't be that crazy to think that they had a religion, or if they found the true meaning of religion or whatever, and sacrifice was still implemented, and instead of using themselves, they used us. I think that's another good creepy pasta.
It really is. I wish I was creative enough to write stuff.
I feel like I would do something where like someone wanted to find aliens, and then they found them, and then the aliens sacrificed them to like this weird creature.
That would be awesome.
And it like ate them. It was like it's like the what's the thing, like the Ragnar on and like the Return of the Jedi, when Jabba the Hutt puts him in that pit and that big creature comes out.
Oh, the worm. What's that called? It's gonna. What's that called? Exogorth.
Oh, we got Lighthouse. Lighthouse Horror. He put out a new video today. I gotta watch.
I watched it. It was great.
His stuff is so freaking good.
He is. He has an amazing voice.
I know. I feel like he's gonna hit 100,000 super quick.
He definitely should. The Sarlacc pit. Yeah, that's the word.
Horror Stories with the Baron is wow. Talk about a wealth of knowledge. I wouldn't know that. I was thinking more of like not the snake thing, but what was the thing where he threw the rock and it hit the that gate and it fell on that big creature? What was that thing?
Oh, in Jabba's palace?
Yeah.
I do not recall. It's been a while since I really got into my Star Wars trivia.
Yeah. Speaking of Lighthouse Horror, he had a video out. I can't remember the name of it. It was so good. I remember I even messaged him. It was that good. I was like, dude, did you write this? And
he writes really stories.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's the thing, because I was like, the Rancor. Oh my gosh. I'm so glad Horror Stories with the Baron's in the chat. He's killing it. Yeah, the Rancor. That's exactly what I was thinking of. But anyways, Lighthouse Horror had this one I remember I had to message him because I was like, dude, did you just write this right now? Like, is this seriously the stuff you're putting out? Because it is so freaking good. I don't think he did write it, but it was still such a good story. And I was like, it was like one of those stories where I was like, this is like a production where like someone put like a lot of money into this. Like, this isn't just one dude narrating like in his spare room in his house like me. Like, this is like, this guy has like a studio. Like, it was so good. Yeah, I won't give.
I think all of his sound like that, though.
Oh, what's that?
I think all of his sound like that, though.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's the thing. Yeah. Yeah. It's. I wish he was back on Twitter. I miss. We need to. I think he'd be an excellent member in our spooky squad.
He is back on Twitter.
He is.
Yeah.
I
very
didn't know
recently.
that. I didn't know that. I have to add him back. That's awesome. I'm big fans of him. I wish I need to ask him about his stories and stuff like that, like what he thinks in terms of conspiracies. Now, let me ask you this, Deadleaf. What do you think what's your favorite conspiracy out there?
Oh man. Have you ever watched Zeitgeist?
What's it called?
Zeitgeist?
I don't think I have.
It came out, oh my goodness, early 2000s. And it was just, it pretty broadly covered a lot of things. But a lot of what it touched on was the Illuminati. And I spent a good while absolutely fascinated by the Illuminati.
Oh, wow.
When I was younger. Someone made me watch They're like, oh, Emily, you have to watch this. It's like, you can spend 2 days watching it. There's like 4 discs. It's crazy.
What do you... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, that was pretty much it.
What do you think... So it sounds like... Do you believe in the Illuminati now?
I believe that there's a select group of very powerful people that pretty much make all of the calls. I think everything else is kind of just the puppetry we get to see.
Right.
Which sounds kind of crazy, but I'm okay with that.
Well,
it's a little crazy.
Well, I always think of like, I like to think of like the Wizard of Oz, where you have the face of it, the Wizard of Oz, but then you have that guy behind the curtain pulling the stuff,
Exactly.
And I think about that, and I think about how certain people possess like a certain percentage of the wealth in the world, and like that, to me, that freaks me out more than like Bigfoot or whatever, just because it's like whatever they feel like or whatever they think is the right thing, like they have the kind of money that they can put it towards something to make it happen. That to me is freaky.
Oh, absolutely.
I think there was like there was like a mockumentary of like what is it called? What's the family? It's like they're not the Fairchilds, they're something Childs, but they have like,
Rothschilds.
Yeah, they have like, like 5% or whatever percentage of the world's wealth, which is like, just, I can't even imagine that. But it was like, they were like into like human sacrifice and like eating people. Well, I've heard from people close to me that they're into like, not the Rothschilds, but like the elite are into like abducting children and eating the children because they produce like a certain hormone that keeps people young.
Oh, I've heard that too.
And that's freaky,
That is really
Did you see that
creepy.
thing with Steve Harvey where they were talking about that cream?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, I won't spoil it for you, and it's kind of gross, but there's this cream and it had an ingredient that was a part of a child. But I mean, it's not like anyways, I won't. Yeah, just I don't know. Maybe Google it. I don't know if I yeah, I don't know what the rules are on live streams, but yeah, it's weird. But it's like
I'll have to look that up. That sounds really interesting.
it's like an anti-aging hormone or something. But yeah, that's freaky.
And there's
And
things like Bohemian Grove.
what's that? Oh, is that like the secret? Is that where
Secret
they do like
meeting where
rituals?
Yeah, like I guess Alex Jones exposed them a while ago, and I think it was back in like 2011. Alex Jones snuck into one of their meetings down there, and supposedly they sacrificed a child or something.
Oh my gosh, that's terrifying. You know what? You know that's so freaky. Um, that's because that kind of stuff. I feel like you kind of think of like Middle Ages, or not Middle Ages, but like you think of like way back in the early periods of time that was like a thing. And
Oh yeah.
what freaks me out is like we went through a couple of periods where we got ransacked by like barbarians or whatever, and we lost like our libraries. Like we lost so much information, and we literally did like a reset with like our knowledge, and like with the burning of like the library at Alexandria and things like that. And it's like
Yep.
I think about that, and I think about, did we have things on like sacred geometry, or did we have things about like the actual powers of crystals, or did we know like things about like Bigfoots, or different creatures that are out there? Is that like an actual thing?
Yeah, it's really there's just so much possibility in what could have been there, but we'll never know because all of that knowledge is lost, and only so many people, started to record things again. So you
Well,
never really know what was re-recorded or what wasn't.
what's interesting though is we talk about that ghosts have been around in the very earliest of the different forms of literature. I mean, you look at Shakespeare; he used ghosts all the time. You look in the Bible; they talk about ghosts and spirits, and that to me is I think that tells me what I need to know in terms of the paranormal. And then to take things a step farther, do you think that what do you think in terms of like them affecting our world? Like, do you think they have any say on what people do and things like that?
Ghosts?
Like we talk about like these societies and things like that. Like,
Oh,
do you
okay.
think that I don't even know. Do you think like they have the ability to like what if like one of those powerful people got possessed? Do you think that they have decisions like they can alter the world like that?
I have never thought about that. That's a really good question.
I mean, that freaks like it's like you watch like a shapeshifter movie, and like a person with power gets taken over, and then everyone's following what this person does or says because they don't know.
That's really interesting to think about, and if you, depending on what various factors, what religion you follow, this and that, um, if Satan, the demons, whatever, want to take over and ruin our world, I mean, if I was a demon, that's what I would do. I would seek out someone in a great position of power. That way you're really getting that influence over the world, leading it in the direction you want it to go.
Right.
Very interesting to think about.
Yeah. Well, and then you kind of like look at people like that are like so clearly obviously bad people in terms of like positions of power, and it's like they weren't always bad to start with. Like if you look at Hitler, like he did some terrible things, but like he didn't come out of the gate doing bad things. Like, people wouldn't rally behind him if he was doing those bad things to begin with. So it's like, do you think there came a point where he lost his soul or whatever, and he got possessed, and people started following, a demon that possessed a guy?
That's really interesting. I'm not quite sure what his early life was like, aside from he was an artist.
Right, and I feel like that's such
always in the realm of possibility.
I feel like going from an artist to a genocidal maniac, I feel like there's such a drastic shift in there. I feel like there's definitely, well, even think about this, okay? To take things even a step farther, right? What if, that powerful group behind the curtain performed a ritual to get him possessed? You know what I mean? That's something to think about.
That is really something to think about.
Because if you can't bribe, there's some people out there that can't be bribed or can't be bought or whatever, and you'd have to resort to something like that, I feel like.
And that very well could be, what they're doing with that Bohemian Grove, and if you jump into that conspiracy theory.
Right. That freaked me out that we just came across that. I feel like we're onto something.
That is very interesting.
What are your thoughts? Do you know anything about, like, what's your time limit? How are you doing? Do we need to get you out off or anything like that?
I have a little bit longer before I have to get ready for bed.
Okay.
I'm old, so I have a bedtime.
Okay, yeah, no, yeah, me too. Yeah. Let me ask you this. Like we talked about like different things and like lost knowledge. I think about Rasputin a lot for some reason, and I think about how he had just such strange powers. And I think about that, and I think about how people get possessed and how things can go badly for people. But what if someone had the ability to be not necessarily possessed, but like blessed by like guardian angels or guardian spirits, and they gave him like powers? Like, do you think now that's like that's like on the like very extreme side of like the paranormal? Like, I don't think about people having abilities or flying or anything like that, but I definitely believe in like being protected and things like that. Do you think that maybe Rasputin had something like that going along his lines?
That absolutely could make sense when you think about just how ridiculous everything was. Thinking about an outside force influencing and assisting. I think that's definitely within the realm of possibilities if you have a pretty broadly open mind.
Right. I think there's a point where you kind of just like have to take a step back, and you're like, all right, this is a bit much. And I feel like what that would be for me is like, what are your views on like the reptilian society? Do you think that people in power are actually reptiles?
That one I think is pretty far-fetched.
Right, and I'm along the same mindset as well. I kind of feel like I feel like up to that point, I believe in the Illuminati. I believe there's a certain group of people, but then I don't think they're lizards. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So. Yeah, I think that one is interesting. I think that there are people that kind of want to believe into something, and I think that's where that comes in. And then like you have like the flat Earth thing. I don't know what your views are with that.
I do not believe the Earth is flat.
Okay. Well, because like it's funny because like I'll say things to people that I feel like everyone agrees with, and then they'll be like, "Oh, what do you mean? Like that's a thing." And then I have to backtrack and like try to make like sense of it to like not offend them.
Yeah, I try and do the same thing. Like I don't want to offend people. We all have our own views, but I don't want to just shoot down someone's ideas.
Right. Right.
Even if someone's not.
Well, let me ask you, what are there any topics that are on your mind in terms of any of this stuff?
Oh, we've covered quite a bit of it.
I agree.
Something I got sidetracked from back on the alien discussion was, like, in regards to them being real, which is backtracking quite a bit.
Right.
But if you look at, I just forgot to say it earlier, but like pyramids, you look at between like the Mayans and the Egyptians.
Mm-hmm.
I think that really is a good indicator. And also
Right.
going to, like, getting on to the Egyptians, I feel like that can relate to quite a few things we've discussed, like lost knowledge. They found indications that they were performing brain surgery back then.
That's crazy.
The amount of technology they had, absolutely insane for the time.
Right.
From, the common knowledge of the time.
Right. I think that's true. Well, hey, something actually came up, and I actually have to get going. Thank you so much for coming on here and talking with me. That means the world to me. I really appreciate that.
Oh, I was very happy to come on. It was really nice to have these discussions with you.
Yeah, thank you. I'll probably be re-listening this tonight and just enjoying the conversation and things like that.
Yeah, I'll probably listen to it again too. It was very nice.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll have to come up with more subject matter and more questions to ask you in the future. And if you have the time, I'd love to do this again.
Oh, definitely.
Well, awesome. Well, I appreciate your time, and I guess I'll just end the stream, and I'll catch you later.
All right. You have a good night.
All right, thanks. You too.